Joining us now to discuss Bitcoin and more is Travis Kling, founder and CIO of Ikigai Asset Management. Hey there, Travis, always a pleasure to see you. All right, so first off, I'd love to get your insights onto what we're seeing in Bitcoin, this latest bounce.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Christine. Look, it was pretty apparent that the moment Q3 was over and we started, a new month and entered into Q4, that we had significant inflows from various different market participants because we just took off like a rocket ship as soon as the month and the quarter ended. The main driver for that, I think, seems to be excitement around a CME futures Bitcoin ETF potentially getting approved. This is something that's been on folks' radar since the first week of August, when Gary Gensler came out with some of his first kind of official public comments and mentioned that he was thinking about treating 40 Act ETFs, which hold Bitcoin CME futures, differently than the approval process for spot physical ETFs. And in the 2 days following those public remarks, you had a couple different ETF providers come out with 40 Act CME futures Bitcoin products. And, I think the conjecture around the likelihood of those getting approved has kind of ramped up over the course of August and the course of September. And now we've gotten to the point where this is being kind of talked about everywhere. And there's still kind of a range of opinions, I think, about whether or not folks believe that it will get approved. But I think if you just take Gensler's comments at face value, there's certainly a good chance that they will get approved, and people see that as a potential kind of large new avenue for significant amounts of institutional capital to easily flow into Bitcoin, and that's got Bitcoin kind of heading in the right direction over the last handful of days here.
Travis, it's interesting you say that because I also took a look at the GBTC premium. It's trading at a discount. It's been for a while, and we see that potentially because of this anticipation of this ETF in the United States, institutions are waiting to gain exposure in down ETFs. Taking a look at that chart, you sent us a one-year chart. Perhaps you can explain to us, walk us through what patterns you're seeing here.
Yeah, sure. So I think the point I was trying to make here was that towards the end of September, we did have, some technical damage that occurred to the Bitcoin chart, just purely from a TA perspective, which, just reminding folks that TA is, definitely not the end all be all. It's just one aspect of a very multifaceted market with Bitcoin and crypto broadly. But then just in a handful of days here, you got back up over the 200-day moving average, which is in yellow. You got back through that downward resistance line, back through that kind of point of control block right underneath us right now. And you're now coming up on a point of control immediately overhead here. And, should that kind of low 50s, call it 53K-ish, should we kind of trade and close above that, it's going to look like a lot of green grass between there and testing all-time highs. But when you think about a chart that did a down 52% from the prior all-time high, a multi-month consolidation period, and then expansion after that consolidation, generally to go back and retest an all-time high after that amount of time and that amount of sort of like battling that happened over the prior 6 months here, I'm not entirely sure that prior all-time high is going to serve as too much resistance should we get back up there again.
Okay, so what are we, oversold, overbought? Where do you see the next leg, up or down?
Yeah, look, I try and be pretty careful about talking, too much about price specifics in public like this. But, I think that there should be some amount of resistance kind of immediately overhead here. And I think it shouldn't cause too much of a pullback in advance of the ETF decision, which the first one of those will be on October the 19th. So I
Yes.
wouldn't expect us to have too much weakness in between now and then.
A lot of
And then
anticipation on
should
that.
that get, yeah, exactly. And should that get approved, I think that's going to open up the door for, a retest and pretty good chance at an
Okay.
all-time high. Should it get denied? I think
Travis,
that'll be in the short term some kind of pullback.
I also took a look at your Twitter, and it's the first time, it's pretty rare for me to see you agreeing with Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, and she was saying on the Senate floor and casting some serious criticism over the integrity of the Federal Reserve, specifically Fed Chair Jerome Powell. And so we have this tweet. Clearly, there's a political fight brewing over the Fed, which makes sense as the entity has become entirely politicized. Kaplan Rosengren already out. Clarida, Powell on the ropes. Whether all these folks get replaced, their successors will definitely be more dovish than they are. All right, so maybe you could walk us through. Obviously, Senator Elizabeth Warren has been criticizing the Fed, and you seem to agree that there may be some political politics at work here.
Yeah, well, I mean, even a broken clock is wrong twice a day. I mean, Elizabeth Warren's a clown show, but in this particular example, I think I just am watching with a lot of interest about what's going on here. And this situation with the Fed right now is part of over the last month or so an ongoing series of macro situations that have caused an amount of stress in traditional market that has leaked over into crypto to some degree. It started a month ago with Evergrande, and then Evergrande, those fears kind of got alleviated, and then it kind of morphed into debt ceiling fears. People started worrying about that. I think that's probably going to be fine. I would be shocked if that causes any kind of significant hiccup in traditional markets. I think politicians just know how bad of a look that is for both sides of the aisle. And then as of 2 weeks ago, with the Fed's meeting and them talking about tapering, and there's some amount of fear about the beginning of tapering potentially in November, although that's not set in stone yet. And then now this latest deal is potential sort of uncertainty and the volatility that could come from uncertainty as a result of some of the chairs potentially getting shuffled at the Fed. So Kaplan and Rosengren are out. Clarida is potentially on the ropes here. Powell is potentially on the ropes here as well too. And it's obvious that this situation is getting very, very politicized. And I understand how the Fed is the single most important entity on planet Earth to financial markets. And so to the extent that there's uncertainty there, it makes sense why that would potentially cause volatility. But over any kind of medium-term time frame, the point that I was making there is that whether some or all of these folks end up getting replaced, they will be replaced by folks that are more dovish than they are. And over any kind of medium, longer-term time frame, that's broadly very bullish for risk assets in general.